select any song or poem to help inspire a historical figure, alive or deceased, during a downtime in their life, which poem or song would you select and why? Which historical figure would you choose to uplift and why? Please take your time, my friend. Whenever you are ready, the floor is yours, good sir.
But one person that was really instrumental was my late wife, Isabel Johnson Banks. She was a poet, writer, and she wrote a manuscript for about at least 30 poems. We haven't gotten the thing published yet, but that's one of the goals. Even after she passed away in 1997, which has been 28 years now, her poetry writing was unbelievable and amazing. And my daughters, we all three of us, we have her manuscript. And one of the things I promised to do is to get that thing published. The one song that I would choose to talk would be for my friend Kirk Whalum. And the song of it is called God Must Have Spent a Little More Extra Time on Me. It inspires me, and I've used that with even kids that like jazz. So the one guy that I would talk about would be a guy named Julian Francis Abele. Julian Francis Abele was the guy that designed Cameron Indoor Stadium. He was the guy that designed the Duke Chapel. He was the guy that designed the step and parts of the Art Museum in Philadelphia. And he was an African American. I guess they contacted him after they designed and built the Palestra, which was the top place that was, as far as stadiums were in the nation. And then they called him and their group, and they came down and they built Cameron Indoor Stadium, the famous Cameron Indoor Stadium. You know, I'm going to the chapel and all this stuff, and they did not promote it or talk about it until the last 10 years. So to read his story, it's amazing as an African-American going through that time, to be an architect and a designer and to get that position to be able to create and design something like, I would love to sit down and have that discussion of how he navigated through that.
If you had one opportunity to say something to a deceased person that you disagreed with on something specific, what would you say and why to that person regarding the disagreement that you once had?
The person's name is Clifford G. Clark, and he was my idol. He was my heart. He was my grandfather. And the story about my grandfather, when we were going through certain things, we were living in South Philly before we moved to West Philly, and things were really hard. I mean, talk about certain things where when you came and you opened your refrigerator and what you had in there, maybe a thing of mayonnaise and some bread. So we were innovative and we made mayonnaise sandwiches, okay?
Oh, yeah.
He left for Mobile, Alabama. Him and his brothers, they had to leave from Mobile, Alabama because they got involved with a fight with a white man. And my grandfather just wasn't having it this one time, and they got into a fight. And by the time they got home, my great-grandmother and great-grandfather already had a brown paper bag with food in it and their clothes packed. And they put them on a train from Mobile, Alabama, all the way up to Uniontown, Pennsylvania. So they had to go up there to escape the possible lynching, or so to speak. And so he decided to take up an apprentice to go to West Virginia, which now the school is called Fairmont University. But there was a thing where blacks could go there to a school, a little carpentry school, to learn to be a carpenter or masonry. And the thing that I'm saying about my grandfather, but I went down in the basement when I stayed with him on weekends, and I looked through, he had these big old trunks, and I opened the trunk up, and there was they wore wool jerseys, them wool itchy jerseys they had back in the day in the sun. And it was pulled out, it was number 20. And we talked about it, but ever since that day when I saw that, I had to been I probably was in 7th grade, 7th, 8th grade. From that day forth, I took that number 20. When I made my decision to go to Duke, I go down and I talked to him, and I was sharing it with him and telling him, and he said to me, he said, if you leave from here, he's older now, he said, I will probably die. And that hurt. I didn't take it serious. I said, oh, Graham, nothing's gonna happen to you. You are strong. But he said, I'll probably die from here. Never thought about it, but he never got a chance to really see me achieve what I did at Duke. That would be the one person I would love to come back and talk, because he knows all the history. I'm still trying to gather more of our history, of our past, And it's I'm getting bits and pieces here and there, but he's the one person, Clifford G. Clark, who I admire so much.
If you were sent back in time to commentate, either on location or in a studio, a historical event, which event would you choose to commentate and why? Which historical figure would you choose to commentate with you and why? And if you could pick any historical figure that would travel to present day 2025 and appear on screen with you as a play-by-play for a week, who would you select and why?
I would love to go back to the 1936 Olympics. I'm going to give you one that's sports. Jesse Owens, in front of, I will mention his name, Adolf Hitler. In his stead, him standing there watching Jesse Owens beat his German chosen humans that were going to destroy the world. I would have liked to have welcomed First Man on the Moon from the United States. I would like to have been able to be there when an American stepped down and said, one small step for a man, one gigantic time. First of all, I asked Alan Shepard, what was the golf ball he hit on the moon? You hit the most famous golf shot, longest golf shot in history, because it just flew and flew and flew. He said, I struck the first one. He said, that's the one you didn't see. I'm going back to the 17th. I'm going back to not July 4th, 1776. That's the Declaration of Independence. I'm going back to the Bill of Rights and the first 10 amendments. And who would I have with me? Two people. Benjamin Franklin. I would like for him to commentate on James Madison and Thomas Jefferson, whether he agreed with what they were doing. In fact, there were originally 19 amendments. That's what they were considering, 19 amendments. I think people should study the history of this country. Madison was tasked with doing the amendments. And he referred to the Magna Carta, he referred to other historic documents, and his first amendment was there will be freedom of religion, that the government can interfere with religion, promote religion. Second Amendment starts off with, in order to have a full militia, because there was a concern that England was going to come back and fight a war with us, or they were going to be involved with anybody else. You've got to be able to bring together a full militia, which happened in 1812. But you've got to have people with guns. James Madison was opposed to the amendments. Thomas Jefferson turned him around on that stuff. I think that Howard Cosell, with his legal background, and Benjamin Franklin, with his intelligence and creativity, and me as play-by-play guy saying, here's what's going on. I just think that we just had a better understanding of our forefathers and what they meant by everything that they were doing and saying. But what I found in my research is they didn't agree. They didn't agree any more than the Republicans and Democrats, Libertarian, and Green Party agree now.
So Stan, yes, you are going to be why there should be a military draft, why it should be reinstated.
But I think that the military draft is good, not only for our country and our overall military power, but it also gives people, and young men and women a chance to go out there and learn discipline. A lot of discipline comes into the military and having to follow orders. And I think that the military and a draft gives them a chance to, one, mature, to grow up a little bit before they go out and get into the university system. They, the kids themselves would really, do well. I mean, and learn so much by being able to, to give themselves time to mature and learn the discipline that the military is going to teach you.
All of you guys and gals, please hold your votes until Mr. Hansen finishes his case for why the 1958 NFL championship game between the Baltimore Colts, and the New York Giants is considered to him the greatest pro sports game of all time.
And the thing that it sticks out to me about two great football teams, the Giants and quarterback by a guy named Y.E. Tittle. And he was like He was like really a great veteran quarterback for the New York Giants. And Johnny Unitas. At the end of the game, the thing that sticks out and why this was just, it meant so much, was that Y.E. Tittle, he took his helmet off and he's there on his knees and there's blood running down his head and everything. And that image stuck with me more than anything else. And that's why I think that image and Y.E. Tittle just giving it everything, but on the losing end.